Hello everyone, Jason Henry Gomes making another quick video about planetary solutions currently that I'm working towards. And as much as it sounds very complicated when you say planetary solutions, it's much simpler. As always, I'm going to be including a number of links for this video so you can look at the various aspects of this video in more detail, but we're going to kind of do a basic overview of exactly what we can do to transform the planet, and it is as simple as transforming water. So there's a few things that I'm currently working on. The last little water project was for structurizing water. So this is a water structurizer which changes the geometry of water molecules in a body of water. So the one end of this nozzle is an expanding vortex, and then it hits halfway point and then it compresses in a counter-rotational vortex which forms specific geometries in water, or spheres of water molecules that then pass through this permanent magnet and invigorate those structures. So it makes them stronger with a higher integrity, and actually looking at also charging that structure with plasma. So plasma is essentially the electricity or the electrical impulse, the high electric charge state of water. It's the fourth state of matter. So plasma activated water is essentially just adding extra energy to the body of water. So when you look at why structuring water, the geometric structure of water is very important to its stability, its ability to conduct energy. So geometrically structured water that's structured with methods like this, the electrostatic potential or the integrity of those water molecule geometries is about 40,000 times higher than standard tap water, and that's because of the vortex flow and the electromagnetic field that it passes through. And plasma activated water is essentially maximizing the potential energy within those structures to increase the electrostatic potential to its maximum possible. So the basic idea of what you're looking at is structured water has a dramatic effect on hydration within the body, and actually increases the hydration process. So it takes less water in order for you to maintain hydration within the body, helps trap particulate matter, so it actually helps purify your body. And plasma activated water, plasma water sanitation systems, as they're known, is essentially a way to induce charge of electricity, just like we use in gases to illuminate fluorescent bulbs. So here I have a little fluorescent bulb, and then I've got a little Tesla coil here that I've used in some of my other videos. But the idea is we can use radiant energy to illuminate gases. And the benefit of doing that is that there are currently about 3 different ways of plasma sanitation for water, or electrically charging water to eliminate bacteria. And the most effective one uses a cathode system, like a little needle, to create a high state of charge within a certain point, which sends that pulse through the water. So what I'll be doing is using radiant energy and using compressive coils. Like this is a vortex coil, which is essentially creating at the center an electromagnetic singularity, a very small condensed point of energy. So replacing the cathode, which wears out over time and is actually eroding into the water, with a magnetic singularity, so we can get that same level of charge in the water without any physical cathode or needle. So it'll just be another way of making plasma sanitation systems possible, and with fewer wearable parts, and of course less pollutants in the water itself. So when you're looking at these systems, water that has been structured makes plants grow about 20 to 25% faster. And when you're looking at plasma sanitation systems, that type of water that's been plasma charged actually makes plants grow about 30% faster, by increasing the efficiency of photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is absorbing radiant energy into water to create plasma, which is just ionized water, which is that extra energy is used to create the glucose in plants. That's what they're actually eating, is that sugars that they're producing from this charge that they absorb and gather in water. So it's enhancing the charge of the water to make photosynthesis more effective, and structure, of course, increases the hydration efficiency as well as increases the total amount of available electrostatic pressure, right? That integrity that keeps the water molecules in binded geometry. So by incorporating these two forms of technology along with aquaponics in and of itself makes plants grow about 30% faster because of the continuous nutrient delivery system that is incorporated into aquaponics system. So my ultimate goal is, just by changing the water, to actually double the growth rate of plants. So I'll be actually creating a bottled water company to provide this type of water to as many people as possible, and use that company as a funding mechanism to start providing this technologies to farmers, to schools, to hospitals, to public buildings, and make it as readily available for private homes as well, and more or less explaining the technology to people and children so that people can build this technology for themselves, so that they don't have to rely on corporations or outside entities to provide it for them. I'm trying to try and reduce it to make it as simple as possible, so that more and more people in more and more places can start using this type of water, because we could dramatically change the state of the food system. So not only does plasma activated water help with photosynthesis, it actually helps with antibacterial processes in the body. So plasma activated water for the first 15 or 20 minutes is highly antibacterial. You could pour it on an open wound as a disinfectant. And that's because of the charge that's in the water that destroys bacteria, because they can't tolerate that charge, where it actually invigorates the human cellular structures. So we can create a type of water that essentially eliminates disease, makes plants grow faster, and increases overall states of health for both plants and animals simultaneously. So just by doing that, we can augment the agricultural system, and so by creating better sources of water for plants and animals become healthier. By creating better sources of more readily available food that's growing faster, we can create healthier bodies by means of proper nutrition. And so when the water is healthier and the food is healthier and the people are healthier, we can actually start working towards global solutions, because a person who is starving cannot be their highest self, because they're going to be in a state of need, and they're not going to simply follow the God has a plan, because if they're starving and their children are starving and their wives or their husband is starving, they're going to make their own plan, and quite often that plan is not very harmonious for the general public. So by creating planetary solutions with the very basics in mind, with water, which ultimately allows for food and a greater state of health for all people and animals and plants within the environment, we can create planetary changes in the emotional state of health, because the emotional state and the state of health and the state of mind are all intrinsically tied together: body, mind, spirit. And so once we get people in line and not in a state of fear of poverty, not in a state of fear of famine, we can actually work towards the greater goal. So the funding mechanism that will be the bottled water company will be breaking into mortal oscillation technologies, which were pioneered by Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, who discovered that all cellular structures have a vibrational frequency that, if oscillated for a period of time, will cause cellular bodies to explode. So by using funding from water and creating mortal oscillation technologies, chambers that are designed to oscillate at very specific frequencies, we can eliminate microbial disease of any kind simply by vibrating it at its resonant frequency, eliminating the need for pharmaceutical pollution within the environment and within the human body, and then moving forward to increase the frequency of oscillation. So it's a slightly higher frequency for light therapy or biophoton therapy. So there are certain energies which naturally resonate with the human body. So by creating a field of resonance for the human body to sit in, it actually increases the state of genetic integrity, and that's Tesla light therapy or biophoton therapy, which enhances your structural integrity of your DNA, which is photosensitive. That's actually how they do genetic manipulation, is with light, lasers. So creating technologies based on the unified field theory, which has essentially been suppressed in the United States in favor of pharmaceutical and chemical solutions, which can be patented and manipulated far more readily and easily, whereas frequencies can be recreated at any point, anywhere in the world, and bacterial frequencies can be indexed to create a comprehensive antibacterial frequency index. So we can eliminate bacteria, we can eliminate genetic disease, we can eliminate famine, we can eliminate poverty, and once we're at that point, we're going to be in a position to create planetary power solutions. So what Nikola Tesla did with the Wardenclyffe Tower was essentially create the lowest point of resistance to electricity possible. So we already know that giant arcs of lightning energy are being absorbed into the lowest point of resistance within the environment. That's why they strike trees, because they're tall. That's why they strike lightning rods, because they go to ground very easily. So what he did was create oscillations that tied to the super high frequencies, and you have nested frequency generators. So because of the fact that he was operating multiple frequencies simultaneously, he was able to create essentially a vacuum for electrostatic potential. So ultimately, when the Wardenclyffe Tower was fully functional and optimized, it no longer drew in lightning like you would expect to see from a Tesla coil. It actually drew in an aurora field, which is what you see in the northern and the southern poles, is that warping of electromagnetism as it's being drawn into the vortex of the planet at its center. So it's the same thing. He applied the same technologies to create a super low point of resistance, and basically a 0 point resistance, to tap into the 0 point energy. So he was inducing huge amounts of charge, but there was no lightning, just an aurora, which essentially created a river of energy flowing through the Wardenclyffe Tower, which could be oscillated at usable frequencies. By having multiple frequency generators operating in concert, he could have the higher frequencies that we use for electronics and for electromotive force in engines, as well as connecting to the lower frequencies, which are generated by the cascade of the Schumann resonance. So he was able to create essentially an induction system that tapped into the 100 billion watts of power being passed through the atmosphere every single second of every single day. Just to give you an idea, that is all of the energy used by the entire planet in 1 year in 90 seconds. So this kind of technology could totally and completely transform the energy system, and because it's being cascaded through the planet itself, all you need is a receiver coil buried in the ground, which you could then tap into this charge. And the reason why it was never introduced to society is because of the fact that his primary backer, which was J.P. Morgan, was in a power company, and he was also in a copper mining company. So he's heavily invested in power, heavily invested in copper, and this kind of technology would have eliminated power lines as well as eliminated the power industry, because there's no way to tell who's using power where, because it's all being surged through the planet as a single circuit, and anybody that taps into that circuit could actually just absorb the radiant energy that was being harmonically resonated through the planet at the natural octave frequencies that the planet's already creating. So not only was it a better source of power, it didn't create all the biostatic feedback. In other words, your cellular device creates oscillations which are unhealthy for cellular structures, whereas this type of technology is actually the opposite. It reinvigorates the cellular structures because it's using the natural harmonics that are already existing on the planet. So we could create a planetary grid for power and communication by using the frequency generator from the Wardenclyffe Tower as a propagating wave. You can send communications to anywhere on the planet without a wired system. So essentially the planet itself acts as the network as well as the propagating force, the power supply behind that communication signal. So when we're looking at planetary solutions, simply by understanding cymatics and understanding quantum entanglement and sympathetic resonance, these three things allow us to tap into the energetic patterns on every single dimension of reality, which allows us to heal essentially disease and eliminate poverty, famine, as well as war. Because if people are tapping into the Schumann resonance power, global transportation and infrastructure would essentially be overhauled overnight without the need for any fuel whatsoever. So I will be including links for some of the things that we're talking about here in this video, which is light oscillation, so the Schumann resonance, mortal oscillation, which is the cellular resonance, biophoton therapy, which is the genetic resonance, as well as water structurizing, what that does for the body, and plasma activation, what that does to water and for people and plants, as well as multiple various designs which are currently underway. So I just want to be able to pull all of these solutions into a clear and concise picture so that you can see that planetary solutions are as simple as just changing the water. Because the moment that we tap into the infinite sensitivity of water, we can tap into the knowledge of the universe, which is the knowledge of creation, which is the knowledge of self-creation. So we can create for ourselves a deliciously refreshing future instead of a dystopia of continuously degrading resources and environment integrity, as well as a state of corruption and disease. So we can reverse everything that's been going on simply by understanding water, simply by understanding resonance and vibration, and we can incorporate these technologies so that future generations are no longer in the dark and they can create for themselves whatever kind of planet they want. So I'll be, again, starting a water company to get these ideas out there and to help propagate the funding for additional technologies which have been suppressed. So I'd like to do concerts with Tesla coils to get something really exciting so people can see it, so they can feel it, so they can participate and enjoy and get excited about what's happening in the future, as well as releasing any and all research and development for these technologies so people can understand it. Because we need to start eliminating the intellectual property, and we need to start propagating intelligence towards general human improvement. So humanitarian projects and increasing the state of husbandry is my ultimate goal for this. So that's why I'm trying to describe this in as much detail. I don't want this technology for myself. I want this technology for all of humanity so that we can create for ourselves a future that we desire to see, to take this reality, which is just vibration, it's just like a dream, and make a beautiful dream, increase the state of pleasantness, increase the state of compassion, increase the state of generosity, and increase the state of harmony. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about what I'm working on personally so that more and more people can get into the idea and start moving in the direction of husbandry, the love, care, and cultivation of plants, animals, and the environment, so that we can create for ourselves and create a body of knowledge for future generations to work from, that are going to allow them to accomplish exactly that, a beautiful and harmonious environment that's thriving in prosperity and abundance. So that's the whole point of Agents of Mass Prosperity. I appreciate all of you who have been watching the videos and giving me feedback and even critiques, because that helps me grow and helps me make better content that's more relevant and that's more understandable, because that's what I want. I want everybody to understand this information. I don't want to be an extraordinarily brilliant person. I want to be an extraordinary person in an extraordinarily brilliant society. That's my ultimate goal, and I think that's the ultimate goal of husbandry in general, is to elevate others so that the standard, the normal, becomes elevated to a higher standard. And so that's ultimately what I would like to do, is help raise you up and help give you the knowledge and help give you the technology solutions that will allow humanity in general, across the board, wherever they're at, and all forms of life on the planet to benefit, because water is the cornerstone of life. And so by creating the highest quality of water, it's my desire to create the highest quality of life for all beings on the planet. So just wanted to share that with you. Again, you have yourself a wonderful day, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video.